Hey, I want to take a minute to talk about Greg Lake and maybe play a little bit of my favorite songs of his here. And Emerson Lake and Palmer is an absolute just dynamite group. They're my favorite band of all time. Three guys, a power trio, Keith Emerson on keyboards. He was like a classical musician in a rock band and composer. Greg Lake, incredible voice, fantastic. He could sing and play these complex bass parts. He could play guitar, write a beautiful ballad, or play along to something like Tarkus or Carnival 9 or Pirates. You had Carl Palmer, who was obviously fantastic on the drums, but also I think there's examples where he's a lot more than just a drummer. He's like a percussion section. And actually Pirates, I think, is, even though it's on Works Volume 1, which kind of fell out of fashion, it seems, for Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Pirates, I think, is an example of a rock band truly integrating with an orchestra in a way that isn't just tacking on strings and brass to an existing composition, but ELP wrote themselves into the orchestra as individual members. And Greg Lake's voice was in perfect form on that Works Volume 1. There's also beautiful songs like C'est la vie, Closer to Believing. Really, Greg Lake's writing as a writer introduced a lot of people to Emerson, Lake and Palmer and continues to do so, even though it's kind of, superimposed with some of these very complex classical arrangements. His writing brings a softness and beauty to what is a lot of complex progressive rock. And so Greg Lake as a writer, the first one, Lucky Man, I did a little short talking about the story of Lucky Man. Did you know that Lucky Man by Emerson, Lake and Palmer wasn't even supposed to be on the first album? They had recorded about 5 songs. It's awesome stuff, that first album. And the engineer's like, okay, so what else do you got? And they're like, that's all we got. Greg Lake is like, hey, I got this song I wrote when I was 12. Busts out Lucky Man, doesn't even use a metronome. He does the guitar, bass, epic harmonies. Carl Palmer jumps in there, does some drums. But then they're like, oh, I guess, Emerson needs to be on the Emerson, Lake and Palmer song. Synthesizer was just Keith messing around on the first run through. He didn't even know they were recording. It's actually one of the most iconic synthesizer solos of all time. I mean, just listen to Homer. This was a song that he had written at 12 years old. He had white horses, ladies by the score, all dressed in satin, waiting by the door. Ooh, what a lucky man he was. Age 12, he writes this song. It's actually fairly simplistic when you compare it to some of his later works, but it's a song that has stood the test of time, and it was brought into the album when they were wrapping things up and they needed one more song. And but as things progressed, eventually on Trilogy, Tarkus didn't really have a ballad necessarily, although there were some moments, but on Trilogy there was From the Beginning. A little more to the guitar on this one. Wait, no. And then this is interesting. When I'm playing live, I usually just go, but I believe he was bending that. Might have been things I missed, but don't be unkind. It don't mean I'm blind. And then he's got his bass playing along on to that song, which is a great little. You see, it's all clear. You were meant to be here. So Trilogy, that was another hit for him from the beginning, from that album. And then actually, when I read in the Keith Emerson biography, I believe it was around the Brain Salad Surgery album, which is just phenomenal. That album blows me away every time, continues to. It's a just incredible, full of composition, ELP at their peak, I believe. And there's a song on there where instead of just tacking on a keyboard solo to the end of it, like Keith had done for Lucky Man and From the Beginning, Keith really joined in the orchestration of Greg's song, Still You Turn Me On. And so Greg has a 12-string, and he's doing really interesting chords and parts. And Keith is playing a lot of, I believe, some harpsichord parts. He's just really orchestrating this incredible chord progression and this beautiful melody. And then Greg Lake has a wah pedal and has that. Let's see. But if you watch Greg Lake play it at the California Jam, he's playing just with a 12-string and does a beautiful rendition of that song. So Still You Turn Me On, just chord-wise and melody-wise, it's beautiful. Do you want to be an angel? Do you want to be a star? Do you want to play some magic on my guitar? Do you want to be a poet? Do you want to be my spring? You could be anything. Do you want to be the lover of another? Undercover, you could even be the man on the moon. Do you want to be the poet? Do you want to be the stream? Let me tell you something, it just don't mean a thing. You see, I'd really have to tell you when you're buried in disguise, like the dark glass on your eyes, though your flesh has crystallized, still you turn me on. Turn me on. And listen to what Keith does there on that second verse. Oh, it's so beautiful. And then what may be the ultimate, although it'd be for me between that song I just played, Still You Turn Me On, and then his song from Works Volume 1, which is kind of a similar concept here. I know that Keith said he had really come to appreciate Greg's compositions at this time, and so C'est La Vie, Keith plays an accordion solo on it that's beautiful, and it's just got this majestic classical folk sound to it. And again, Greg's playing the 12-string. C'est la vie. Have your leaves all turned to brown? Will you scatter them around you? C'est la vie. Do you love? And then how am I to know if you won't let your love show for me? C'est la vie. Oh, oh, c'est la vie. Oh, oh, c'est la vie. Who knows, who cares for me? C'est la vie. A little reminiscent of The Sage, which when they did pictures at an exhibition, they added that in, which is I carry the dust of a journey that cannot be shaken away. There's something there. I'd need to play with that one again. But, you know, Greg had a lot of parts that playing 20-minute songs, playing these incredible compositions and playing bass on Tarkus, you know. And although he is recognized for his voice, and certainly at the time, Emerson, Lake and Palmer was certainly recognized, I feel like these days ELP doesn't get enough credit, and I'm not just saying this as, you know, a super fan that I am. Just, they really did sell so many records, an incredible amount. They were on the charts like crazy. And then just as a group, the talent among those three was incredible. And Greg Lake's songwriting really brought a lot of people on board to ELP to then dive into some of their more complex works. And then he also had these amazing bass parts and guitar solos, like that Carnival 9. This is a great song, great example of his playing, and carnival rock in a progressive rock sense. And second impression, third impression is just out of this world. And I might want to do a little video on that because the lyrics on that are a bit prophetic in a way. But Greg Lake's songwriting in the group and outside of the group was excellent. He was, of course, from King Crimson on the first album. You know, he's the one singing on... And Pete Sinfield, who helped him and wrote a lot of lyrics with Greg Lake in King Crimson, also did with Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And so I just like to, you know, I just made this video kind of off the cuff to show my appreciation for Greg Lake, and may he rest in peace. A incredible voice. I love his songwriting. And Emerson, Lake and Palmer, my brother had bought a CD, the best of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and when he headed off to basic and then later Afghanistan and Iraq, he had given me his CDs. And I had listened to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and we would even play from the beginning. He would play guitar and I'd play the bass part. But it was the last CD that I pulled out of there and listened to, because I just remember thinking, these guys are definitely talented, but it's just weird music. And I remember there was a moment I had headphones on and it was dark and I was listening. And as I went through the tracks, it was like hearing music for the first time and just being really transported to another world through their music, because it was just so theatrical and visual, and it's hard to get into. Like I said, I thought it was weird for quite a while. I was intrigued, but I just wasn't quite there. And then once I got it, it was just can't really explain it. And I've been a lifelong fan ever since. So really with Greg Lake and Emerson, Lake and Palmer in general, their contributions to music have been legendary, massive. And I do think that they deserve to get some more listens. So if you like this video or like anything I had to say in it, you know, please leave a comment. Tell me what you think about Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Greg Lake, and tell a friend about it. Or if you haven't checked him out and you're watching this video out of interest, well, thanks for watching this far, first of all. Appreciate that. If you don't mind subscribing, maybe check out some of my music. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. My name's Lucas Holmgren. But give it a listen. Listen to Still You Turn Me On, C'est La Vie, from the beginning, and then dive into some of Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Carnival 9, Tarkus, Trilogy, some of the most beautiful piano playing, and Greg Lake singing, Keith and Greg. Just perfect composition and recording, and then it goes into something completely different. I think I heard it described as intergalactic synthesizer warfare. But there's so much there, such a depth of music. And thank you to Keith and Greg, rest in peace, and Carl Palmer, legendary drummer, still with us, touring, playing ELP's work, I have got to go see him. He's incredible. Thanks again.